All right, we are back for week 5 of the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. And let me tell you something. This was probably one of the hardest weeks to find film on these fighters that we've had for the entirety of the season so far. A lot of these guys, you can't find much of anything, except for like Cam Teague and Larry Ann Douglas. But a lot of these people, man, like it is very hard to find fights for the people competing on this show. Like Felipe Franco and Freddie Vidal, I couldn't find much of anything. Like literally anything. I saw a couple takedown highlights, some ground and pound from Freddie Vidal, and I found one chopped up, awful quality fight from Felipe Franco where he took down this overweight guy and just got on top of him and then choked him out. So I guess we'll kick off week 5 with the first fight up in the light heavyweight division between Felipe Franco taking on Freddie Vidal. Just based off what I've read about most of these, or that these two, Vidal's going to be the better wrestler. Franco's going to be the better grappler. I don't think Vidal has too much striking on the feet, but I also think Franco doesn't really throw much of anything in terms of punches. He'll throw a couple kicks, maybe a couple feints, but what he wants to do is get in close, take you down, get on top of you, beat you up with ground and pound, and then look to set up a submission. I think it's going to be a little bit harder to take down Vidal because I think he's just, on paper at least, the more credentialed wrestler. The better grappler, like we said, is Felipe Franco. I think a lot of this fight does take place on the ground, but you always have to remember that when you do have two grapplers, primary grapplers, it will turn into a striking match. And I haven't seen anything from Franco. I've seen a little bit from Vidal, but I don't think he's a good striker either. So I think it'll be a subpar amateur level kickboxing match, and anybody between these two could win if it turns into primary striking matchup, or turns into a primary striking matchup between Franco and Vidal. I think anybody can win the striking in this fight, but I think for the most part, just based off what I've seen, which like I said, isn't much, I'm going to take Felipe Franco to beat Freddie Vidal. I just think that this fight's going to take place mainly on the ground, and I've seen a little bit better transitions. I've seen a little bit better submission attempts and top control from Felipe Franco. And Freddie Vidal's a good wrestler. I've seen some videos of him talking about his coaching and training and things like that. And even though Vidal is the more credentialed wrestler, I feel like the wrestling might be a little bit even, and the jiu-jitsu is probably going to be better on the side of Franco. So I'm going to take Felipe Franco, but like I said, I couldn't find much of anything on these guys, either of them, to be honest. And yeah, I'm going to take Felipe Franco by a second round rear naked choke submission. I'm going to say he finds the back of Vidal in a scramble and chokes him out. But it wouldn't surprise me if Vidal takes him down and beats him up. It wouldn't surprise me if one of these guys lands a big shot on the feet and knocks the other one out. Like I said, this is probably my least confident pick from any week of the Contender Series so far. But I'm going to take Felipe Franco. I'm going to take him to win the transitional battle on the ground and get a submission. So Felipe Franco, round 2, rear naked choke submission. All right, next up, we've got a battle between Samuel Sanches taking on a returning fighter of the Contender Series in Jason Blair. Blair coming in 7-3, while Samuel Sanches is 10-1. On the side of the prodigy, Samuel Sanches, he has 7 KOs, 1 submission, and 2 decisions. On the side of Jason Blair, 7-3. Out of those 7 wins, he has 4 knockouts and 3 submissions, all wins coming by way of a finish. This is another one that I think is a little bit tricky. Just in layman's terms, I think the better striker is Samuel Sanches, but he hasn't fought much of anything in terms of competition level. Jason Blair has fought the better competition, but it's also Cage Warriors level competition, and a lot of the times, you know, Cage Warriors competition does not usually translate very well for many people when they step over into the UFC. But again, this is the Contender Series, so it's a little different. But we've also seen people get fraud checked on the Contender Series coming off of the Cage Warrior circuit over in the UK, London, Ireland, etc. I think Sanches is probably better with the long, rangy strikes. with the hands. I think he's better with his jab, better with the 1-2. Probably can keep Chasen Blair at range and box him up from a distance. If you remember the first time he got on the Contender Series, he fought Cody Steele. Cody Steele was kind of piecing him up. It was a little bit tricky, a little bit shaky early on, but eventually he just ripped big shots to the body and ended up knocking him out. I believe he ripped a shot to the body and then came back up top and just folded him with a liver shot up against the fence. I think that was in the second round of their fight. But yeah, man, I think Chasen Blair is the much better grappler, at least when it comes to the fight taking place on the ground. I think he's the better grappler, and I think if he's smart, he would want to try to get Sanches down to the ground as quickly as he can. Make this as painless as possible with the way he wants to win this fight. So closing the distance, catching a kick, taking him down, corralling him against the fence, throwing some feints, changing levels, getting him on his back. I think he will kind of dominate Sanches on the ground. I just think it might be a little bit more difficult to get him there than he originally believes. Like, I think Chasen Blair might have a little bit of an issue getting him to the ground, but I've seen him have great trips, great body lock takedowns, and when he gets a hold of guys, I mean, he can just throw them right on the ground and get on top. I think it'll be a little bit difficult to get Sanches down, and I kind of think that in the first round, Chasen Blair might get pieced up a little bit. I think the jab is going to work very well. Like I said, the long-rangey striking of Samuel Sanches, I do think can give Chasen Blair some issues early on in the fight. The jab, the 1-2, a long 3-2. But I also think that if he gets backed up, he kind of relies on his length and his frame to defend against shots instead of actually using a good high guard and good defense. So that also could cause some issues for him as well. But I'm going to take Chasen Blair to come in and get the job done here. I know that on paper, the record of Samuel Sanches is better, but I do think that Chasen Blair has fought the better competition. I think he's competent enough to be competitive on the feet, but I think it's inevitable that he will eventually get Sanches down to the ground. And even if he gets up once, I think he's not going to get up a second, a third, a fourth time. And I think Chasen Blair will transition over to the mount, beat him up with some ground and pound, force him to give up his back, and get a submission. I'm going to go with Chasen Blair to win. Second round rear naked choke submission over Samuel Sanches. But if the grappling is stifled by Sanches, I could see a late TKO from Sanches in beating up Blair, keeping it on the feet, and just using his long, straight shots to kind of pick him apart. A little bit like we saw Tommy McMillan use on his fight in the Contender Series last week. So I think the jab and the 1-2 are the best weapons for Sanches and the check left hook, while I think the grappling is the path of least resistance for Blair. I'm going to say the grappler gets the success this week and gets the job done. Second round rear naked choke submission after peppering him in the mount with some ground and pound. Give me Chasen Blair, round 2 rear naked choke. All right, next up, we've got a battle taking place in, I believe, the 145-pound division. Let me just double check. Yes, in the 145-pound division, my favorite fight on the card between another fighter returning to the Contender Series in Cam Teague, coming in at 9-1, taking on the former LFA champion in Larian Douglas, who comes in with a record of 12-5, which on paper doesn't look that great, but he's coming off of 4 wins in a row, all coming by way of knockout. Yeah, this is a great matchup between Teague and Larian Douglas. Douglas trains under the Bloodlines camp or Bloodlines management system, training with the likes of Cub Swanson, Nick Fishback, Daniel Argueta, Danny Silva, etc., etc. There's a lot of people who train with Larian Douglas, and I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, I had heard about Douglas. I obviously knew who Teague was coming off of last season of the Contender Series, where he got the returning Kevin Vallejos and got absolutely pieced up and knocked out. Larian Douglas I didn't know much about. I had seen him. I know what he looks like. I know that he had powerful striking. But what I will tell you is from the tape I've seen, I'm very impressed with Larian Douglas. I think he picks his shots very well. He doesn't throw a ton of volume, but he uses his length and reach pretty damn good. He throws good low kicks, fakes and feints, chops down the leg kicks, pops the jab. Good 1-2s, solid shots inside as well, uppercuts and hooks. And I really think the biggest difference here is going to be the power of Larian Douglas against Teague. Against Kevin Vallejos, the power was an issue, but it was also the technical skills. Teague has gone off from the last time on the Contender Series, won some fights in MMA, took a professional boxing bout and won that, and has improved his hands. But I just think that Larry Douglas is going to eventually find that kill shot on Teague. And if he doesn't, I think the power of the punches that he throws is just going to be way too much and cause way too much damage for Teague as well. So Teague is solid. He throws good boxing combinations himself. He's got good volume. I would even say on paper he has better volume in terms of output than a guy like Larry Douglas. But Douglas has a good jab, a good 1-2. He can crack you and knock you out with a left hook. He can knock you out with an uppercut. He can knock you out with a straight right hand. He has decent leg kicks, and he has good takedown defense. I think some people are going to look at this fight and think a lot about the takedowns and this possible submission aspect for Cam Teague. And although I think he probably is the better grappler and the better submission artist in this fight, I think for the most part this fight is going to play out on the feet because I don't think the takedowns are going to work well against Larry Douglas. He seems very capable in terms of defending takedowns, in terms of framing off, in terms of pushing down on the head and using that to limp leg out or push the opponent away and land elbows and knees while he's in close. I just think that the power of Larry Douglas is really what's going to win him this fight. I could sit here and talk to you about this for 10 minutes and it would just be a lot of repeating because I feel like I've already broken down how I think this fight's going to go. I think if this fight gets into the late portions of the fight, the midpoint of the second round into the third round, then maybe the volume and the output of Cam Teague is kind of overwhelming the powerful striker in Douglas, but I think Douglas is calm, he's patient, he's measured, he doesn't throw a lot, but what he throws usually lands and is very meaningful, and the power difference is night and day here. I think he will get hit with some shots early, but I think eventually that big left hook is going to catch the chin of Cam Teague, or I think a big right hand right down the middle, a straight right down the pipe, or a big left hook is going to catch Cam Teague, and he's going to knock him out. Give me the big favorite. Give me Larry Douglas to win. I'm going to take him to win by a second round knockout over Cam Teague. I just think he's too powerful and he's too clean of a striker for a guy like Teague. And yes, I think Teague could use the grappling, but I don't think he's going to get the chance to do so in this fight. So for this one, I'm going to go Larry Douglas round 2 knockout over Cam Teague, and I think he gets it done impressively and finishes him off. All right, up next, we've got a battle in the women's flyweight division between Chanel Dyer taking on Carol Foro. 8-1 for Foro, 6-0 undefeated for Chanel Dyer. Out of those 6 wins, she has 2 wins by decision, 4 wins by knockout, which isn't really a typical thing, especially in women's MMA. And for Carol Foro, she has 8 wins, 1 loss, 6 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Never been finished in her career. Her only loss came via a decision to Beatriz Consuli, and it was a split decision back at LFA 175 back in January of 2024. Since then, she has rattled off 6 wins in a row, all coming by way of finish and all in the first or second round. For Dyer, like we said, undefeated 6-0, 4 knockouts, 2 decisions. She's coming off a split decision win over Valentina Scatizzi, and she's also coming off of a round 1 head kick knockout, a round 3 knockout, and a unanimous decision at PFL Europe 3 over Luisa Cifuentes back in September of 2023. Listen, guys, this is a fight that I see a lot of people on the side of Dyer, and don't get me wrong, like on the tape, I think Dyer is a very, very clean striker. She lands good left hooks, good jabs. She measures the distance well. She throws good low kicks. I think the best weapon in her game are her calf kicks. She's very, very good at the jab, the calf kick, and circling off. She cuts good angles, and she's very aware inside the cage. She knows where she needs to be in order to get her game off. She knows where she doesn't want to be in terms of where things could go south for her. I think Carol Foro, coming in, this girl is a beast. Like, she will walk forward, keep that high guard, get in your face, left hook, overhand right. Rear uppercut, left hook, rip the body shot. 1-2 down the middle, pull counter, 6-3, rip the body with the liver shot. I mean, this girl will come forward and get in close and try to pressure you and piece you up. I think that in the later portions of this fight, if Dyer doesn't knock her out early, I think the forward pressure and the forward movement of Foro could really cause some issues for a counter striker and a technical kickboxer like a Dyer. Dyer wants to keep it pretty, but she is very powerful in her own right. I mean, she's got head kick knockouts. She's got knockouts with punches. I mean, this girl can really put it together in terms of a technical striking performance. This looks like a showcase bout on paper, but Foro is very, very, very fucking tough, man. Like, I can't even lie to you. Like, if she gets in close and can crowd the kicker, we've heard this how many times in MMA, how many times in MMA breakdowns, crowd the kicker, crowd the kicker. I think Dyer is also a capable boxer, but if she can crowd those kicks and get in close, I mean, Foro can hurt her. Foro can come over the top with the right hand, the left hook, the liver shot, come up the middle with the uppercut, jab, left hook, rear uppercut, overhand right, left hook. I mean, if she gets in close, then I think Chanel Dyer is in a lot of trouble. That's what makes this fight so interesting, and I actually think this is one of the more interesting fights on the Contender Series because this is the first women's fight on the Contender Series through 5 weeks, and I think they picked a good one here to showcase these women. I think I like the forward pressure, I like the boxing, I like the dirty boxing and the in-close style of Foro, and I like the on-the-outside finesse kickboxing style of Dyer, where she does also possess knockout power. This is going to be a case of who can manage the range and who can manage the distance better. That's what this fight comes down to. If it's a long-range kickboxing match, Dyer picks apart Foro and beats her up. If it's long-rangey kickboxing early, but Dyer starts to get pressured, starts to get tired, and starts to get pushed against the fence, then that's where I think Foro probably is utilizing her dirty boxing, probably is getting in close, probably is cutting off the cage and pushing her against that cage wall and ripping those uppercuts, ripping those body shots, ripping those overhands, and working inside the clinch. So I think a late finish is definitely there for Foro. I think an early finish or a late finish is going to be there for Dyer. But I'm going to take Chanel Dyer. I just think she's the cleaner striker. I think she's going to have the better game plan. I think she's going to manage the distance better. And I think that is going to cause Foro to, yes, do some damage, but also walk into some big shots. And I'm going to take Chanel Dyer to get a round 2 knockout here. I'm going to say this time she does it with an elbow inside the clinch. Call me crazy, because a lot of it is head kicks and a kicking-based arsenal. But I think with the style and the pressure fighting of Foro, I think she's going to walk her into one of those big elbows as she crashes the pocket, put her down, and finish her off. So give me Chanel Dyer, round 2 knockout. But I think this is going to be a brawl and a very fun fight for as long as it lasts. If I'm going to tell you to take one thing here, I would take fight to end by knockout or fight to not go the distance. But my official pick is Chanel Dyer, round 2 knockout with an elbow from in close range or inside the clinch. All right, and in the main event of Week 5 of the Contender Series, we have a battle in the heavyweight division between Anthony Guarascio, coming in at an undefeated record of 3-0, taking on Steven Asplund, coming in with a record of 5-1. Yeah, guys, I'm going to keep this one short. I've got Anthony Guarascio to win this fight. I like what I've seen from this guy, but he also finishes people just so early that you can't take too much from the tape. When you got guys coming in here just walking through people, knocking them out super early, I mean 3-0, and he's got wins, 1 minute and 4 seconds guillotine choke, 31-second knockout in round 1, and a minute and 32-second knockout against Bailey Schoenfelder, who actually was on the Contender Series before, and the loss he suffered on the Contender Series wasn't anywhere near as devastating as this one, but he did get finished. He got submitted, I believe, on the Contender. Let me see. Yes, he got submitted against Danilo Voivodkin in the first round. I don't think Danilo ever got to the UFC. Yeah, I mean, the last time he fought was actually on the Contender Series, and we did not see Danilo Voivodkin in the UFC, so I don't know what happened to him. I don't know where he's been. But, yeah, Bailey Schoenfelder got put down and put down hard by this guy, Anthony Guarascio. This guy's got good stance-changing combinations. He's got good straight punches. For a heavyweight striker, at least on the regional level, I think this guy's boxing is actually decent. Do I think he's super clean, super technical? No. But his straight punches are nice. He switches stances, and he can set you up and circle you into big looping shots such as overhands or big hooks. For Asplund, this guy's just tough, man. He's fucking tough. He doesn't really quit on himself. He has been in very bad positions and gotten out and came back to knock people out. He survived an early storm and weathered the storm. And usually with a guy like Guarascio, you want a guy who can weather the storm. You want a guy who can get out of that first round, tire you out, put the pace and pressure on you, and whoop your ass. Asplund also has a lot of loose skin, so you could tell this guy has worked extremely hard in his career to get in very good shape as a heavyweight. Doesn't look like it because he's got all those loose flaps of skin, but you could tell he lost a lot of weight, which shows his work ethic and his dedication to the sport is definitely on a high level. Like this guy will, and you can tell just in his fights, I mean, he's always getting taken down, getting put in bad positions, getting hit with big shots, and finds a way to come back, finds a way to get out of chokes, get out of full mount, get back up to the feet, get up to the cage, work his way back into fights, and beat up the opponent. He's live for a late finish. I'll tell you, I think his opponent is live for a late finish, but I just don't think he's going to be able to survive the early storm from Anthony Guarascio. Asplund is going to come to fight. Asplund is a tough guy. Like I said, he's a tough son of a bitch. He'll push forward. He's not going to quit on himself. Got put in full mount. Has been put in full-on submissions and gotten out. Has reversed positions. Has gotten taken down and beaten up with ground and pound and survived for minutes on end. Like, the guy is not going to quit, but it doesn't matter if you don't quit if you get your lights put out. And that's what I think is going to happen here. I'm going to take Anthony Guarascio to just storm Asplund. I'm going to take him to storm him, hurt him early. You know, he comes back with some good shots, but I don't think he's going to allow him to recover. I think Steven Asplund gets put out in round one. Give me Anthony Guarascio to win round one knockout. I think he's going to storm him, hurt him, rock him. He'll survive, hurt him again. He'll survive, he'll get back up, and he'll get knocked out. Probably like 2.5 minutes into the first round. I'm going to go 2.5 minutes into round one. Anthony Guarascio finds the knockout and puts out Steven Asplund and kind of ends the Cinderella story-esque victory that would come if Asplund got the job done. Even though beating a 3-0 guy, you know, isn't supremely impressive because they don't have a ton of experience. But I think Guarascio's cleaner. I think he has better technical skills. I think he throws in a lot of volume and a lot of power early, and I think he's going to walk Asplund into some big shots where he's not going to be able to recover. So give me Anthony Guarascio to win round one knockout for the main event of week 5 of the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell for all future uploads and fight breakdowns on the channel. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.